Shalom, I'm Yosef Malachi Zadok. Right now I'm going to talk a second about a particular law found in the book of Leviticus. And this law has been misunderstood and confused by some. And some, I guess, what you could say racist individuals have taught others that this law means something that it doesn't. So I'm going to read the law and then I'm going to explain it using scripture. Leviticus, starting at chapter 19, verse 19. You shall keep my statutes. This is verse 10. You shall keep my statutes. You shall not let your cattle gender with a diverse kind. You shall not sow your field with mingled seed, neither shall a garment mingled of linen and wool come upon you. And whosoever lies carnally with a woman, that is a bondmaid, a servant, betrothed to a husband, and not at all redeemed, nor freedom given her, she shall be scourged. They shall not be put to death because she was not free. And he shall bring his trespass offering to Yahweh, to the door of the tabernacle of the congregation, a ram for a trespass offering. And the priest shall make an atonement for him with the ram of the trespass offering before Yahweh, and his sin which he has done, shall be forgiven him. Okay, so the part of this that I want to focus on is, you shall keep my statutes, you shall not let your cattle mate with a diverse kind, you shall not sow your field with mingled seed. This has been misunderstood to mean that two people of two different nationalities or races are not to mix in marriage. The problem with this is that there are examples in the Bible of where Yahweh blessed marriages that were mixed, interracial marriages, such as Moses and his second wife, I believe it was his second wife, who was an Ethiopian. So a Hebrew married an Ethiopian, a black woman, and Yahweh blessed that marriage. Second example is Joseph in Egypt, a Hebrew, endowed and blessed by Yahweh with the ability to interpret dreams and understand enigmas and visions. He was a prophet, just like Moses, and he married an Egyptian. In fact, Ephraim and Manasseh came out of this marriage. By the way, Moses, who married the Ethiopian, was a Levite. He was a Levite. So, Yahweh blessed those marriages. That doesn't contradict that law, because that law was not referring to interracial marriages. That law is referring to purity. Purity. Yahweh's law forbids a man who serves him to marry a pagan woman who is unconverted. It forbids a man to marry a woman who is of a different faith than he himself. And Yahweh called his people the sons of Yahweh. But he calls the women of the world the daughters of men. And you can find an example of that in Genesis chapter 6, when it says, the sons of Yahweh looked upon the daughters of men and saw that they were fair, and all took for themselves wives of whom they chose. So they didn't allow Yahweh to select who it is that they would have for wife, or the kind of woman. They just looked upon their beauty and took them for that alone. Even though these women were pagan, Solomon made the same mistake. Solomon married 700 wives And they led his heart away from Yahweh because he married them for the wrong reason. See, they were unconverted. And because he didn't convert them to the way of Yahweh, they continued worshiping their gods. Solomon, his sin was not in the number of wives that he had, because Yahweh's law does not forbid a man to marry more than one woman. It forbids a man to marry a woman of the wrong nature and character. So his wives continued worshiping demons, and it led him away into the point to where he began erecting shrines and so forth for these women to worship their gods, and he then turned and joined in. Much like Eve serving the serpent, turning and giving to her husband Adam, and he taking of that fruit and doing the same. So it's not about the skin tone or the color of the skin. It's about the content of the heart, which is what Martin Luther King actually spoke about, and it is so true. That is actually a truth in Yahweh. It's not about the skin, it's about the content of the heart. Who's in your heart? Is it pagan gods and their ways, or is it Yahweh and his way in your heart? So, not mixing seeds. Let's break this down on a natural level here. The seed is in the man. Women don't produce seed. Women are like a plant that receives pollination or receives seed. But men are the seed sower, and they have the seed within themselves. So a woman is to be bound to one husband, right? Right. So a woman's to be bound to one husband. She's not to take in seeds from other men. You don't mix seed in a field. So if a field is designated for apple trees, you don't go behind the planting of the apple seeds and sow in pear trees or cotton. You keep a field designated to the kind of seed that is to be sown with. A woman is the field, the man is the sower, and the seed in the man is the seed being sown. So that is another reason why a man can have 10 wives, for example. If all those wives are clean and they all worship Yahweh with him, then he's free to sow his seed into all 10 women, because they will be bound to that one husband for life. But the minute multiple seeds come into that field, it creates confusion in the body of that field. It creates a war within the body of the woman, which is where various cancers and other health complications arise. Even birth defects can take place. So the person is not the seed. The seed is in the person, specifically the male. So don't mix seeds. A woman should not mix with multiple men. It is dangerous to her health. It is a sin against Yahweh. So this is what that law is actually referring to. Secondly is doctrine. In the parable of the sower, the word is the seed. The seed is the word of Yahweh. Well, if you're living on the word of Yahweh, which is the law and the prophets, the testimony of the apostles, if you're living on the word of Yahweh, you don't go along and pull the teachings of a pagan religion into it. You don't mix doctrines. You don't mix words. You don't mix seeds. It has nothing to do with the content. The color of the skin. It has everything to do with the content of the heart. Yosef Zadok, peace.